Ladies and gentlemen, this is Dr. Lewis from the Health and Wellness Spot. Now, we put up a video that was talking about spirituality, and it has been received so well. And we will answer most of your questions, and all the questions that you asked in that video or in the comment section, we will address them, possibly on a live, or we can do another video that actually answers those questions in depth, the one for forgiveness. So thank you for the immense support. Now, this video, I'm going to address healthcare professionals or healthcare practitioners. These are the doctors, these are the pharmacists and pharmaceutical technologists, these are the clinical officers, these are the nutritionists, and these are the laboratory technicians. Now, I'm going to address that because of a serious reason. Health is a personal journey to all of us. And at some point, either one of us or even all of us have suffered a certain condition that totally drained you physically, emotionally, and psychologically, and even financially. And maybe that's the reason why you started listening to health-related content. And now you have the awareness and you understand health, because that's the reason why Health and Wellness Spot exists. So on that note, most of you consider medical practitioners or healthcare workers as successful people. And that begs the question, what is success? And also, are humans or human beings really successful? And I don't know, you can put in the comment section your answer, but I'll tell you this for free, that no human being is successful. Whatever you view as success is actually a center of privilege. Now, a doctor's purpose is basically to glorify God by easing pain and suffering from God's people. So when you ease pain and suffering from the lives of people, that glory goes back to God, which basically means there is no human being that is successful. Success belongs to God. And all of us, if you're a doctor, you have been positioned or placed in a center of privilege or in a position of privilege so that you become a responsible steward. Underline the word responsible. A responsible steward to God's success. Now, your purpose is only to ease pain and suffering in the lives of God's people. And this applies to most people in most professions. However, the health profession is the most sensitive one. Now, how many doctors are doing that? How many doctors are extracting resources from the innocent public or even the poor because they don't have the information? How many doctors are actually fighting the gospel that we're putting out, not because we are saying the wrong things, but because they feel challenged and their profession is questionable or is questioned or is put on test or up to test? How many doctors are doing so much injustices after they graduate, after they come into the field and money takes over and health becomes subsidiary or secondary to profits? Now, every doctor made or took an oath that is called the Hippocratic Oath. Now, this oath has 4 principles. And the Hippocratic Oath, if you read the original version of the Hippocratic Oath, leave alone the one that is prepared by universities and the big pharma so that you just recite it when you're graduating. If you go deeper and get the original copy of the Hippocratic Oath, those 4 principles are discussed in depth and they open up your mind to a different thing. Now, I want you to understand this. Number 1 on that oath is basically beneficence, which basically means that anything a medical practitioner does, a doctor, a pharmacist does, or a dentist, anything that you do is supposed or is aimed at benefiting your client, which is basically the patient. That means anything that causes harm to that patient is a criminal offense because you took an oath and you stood by that oath and you want to stand by it and defend it. But most of you have forgotten, once you recited the oath on the graduation square, that is the end of it. You don't practice it anymore. So that is number 1. Number 2 is basically non-maleficence. Now, maleficence just means do not cause any harm to your client. So if you're handling a patient and let's say you're writing a prescription, and then this prescription is basically supposed to cause pain more than relieve pain, you are doing the wrong thing. How many of you will know that drugs for diabetes are aimed at treating the symptoms of diabetes, but you still add on the prescription of diabetic drugs with the mind that you're going to save this patient, yet you know you're only treating the symptoms. How many of you will write these prescriptions and refill prescription not because you want to change the life of the patient, but because you want this patient to come back as your customer? How many of us take time to explain healthcare to the patient? How many of us explain the side effects, for example, when you're administering a hormonal contraceptives, a medication, or a drug that we know is going to cause harm to the patient through depression, through the migraines, through spotting, through hormonal imbalances, through cancer, and all these side effects. But we still administer it, yet we understand that birth control is not in the hands of the women, it is in the hands of the men. So how many of you are practicing these injustices? And you will also understand that another principle of the Hippocratic Oath is basically justice. So that is principle number 3. So what does justice mean? It means that you're going to treat every patient equally and you're going to be kind to everybody, regardless of who they are. Now, most of you will handle some patients with a lot of confidence, with a lot of keenness, but you will handle others just to clear the lines in the hospitals. You will also rush to handle others in the public hospitals so that you forward them to your clinics and then run to the clinics and extract as much money from them as possible in form of consultation fees, and also write prescriptions that don't make sense just because you want to extract as much money from the client as possible. You will also write lab tests that do not even make sense because you want this patient to run desperate and buy and invest in your clinic with money as much as they can. How many of us do that? These are questions that you start asking yourself, and the guilt inside us is not enough to even push us to do better. Why? Why are we doing that? Now, another and the fourth principle of the Hippocratic Oath is basically autonomy. Now, autonomy basically means just be truthful. Explain the healthcare condition to the patient in the easiest way possible and be truthful to them. Respect the choices of that patient. If that patient wants a certain type of modality, respect that. And that's the reason why we have something called concordance, because concordance is actually taking the patient's side of the story and explaining your side of the story so that you reach an agreement that will be both beneficial to you as a practitioner and to the client with very minimal effects or side effects to the client. So you have to explain healthcare to these patients. But how many of you are fighting us when we try to bridge the gap between healthcare and the general public? Because we all know that when that gap between healthcare and the public is bigger, then we or those rogue doctors will survive the most, because you rely on patients or clients having zero information about healthcare so that you exploit to them. You make them feel like you're the doctor and they are the patient. So you can use that to sell them fear. And once you sell them fear, they buy that fear and now they become desperate. So they become your customer for a lifetime. Why do we do that? Yet, every person who went to a medical school, you knew the target was to come in, get that knowledge and use that knowledge to change lives. But you went in, the syllabus took over and common sense disappeared from your head. You went in and yes, knowledge came in, but how about the common sense? What are we doing in healthcare? Now we also know that in autonomy you need consent. Again, because these people don't have the information, you will use that for your own selfish benefit. Why do we do that? Why do we exploit our clients like that? Now, if all of us stick to the Hippocratic Oath and we practice it, this means no medical doctor or clinician will close the door just because it is 1 p.m. and they want to go for lunch and their patient seated outside. No pharmacist or no pharmtech will close down that window just because it's a lunch hour. But how many of you do that? You close the window and you want these patients to wait for you as you go and enjoy your lunch. How many do that? And I know, the general public, you can easily know what I'm saying. You can relate to what I'm saying. How many of you who are in the lab department, the lab technicians, how many of you still carry on to do tests that are useless, that do not have any benefits to the patient? Even after the Widal test has been withdrawn, we still do it. The Brucella test will always stand positive because it's an antibody test, but we still do it. Most of us know the brucella test, the typhoid test, the Widal one specifically, and the H. pylori test will turn positive, and therefore this patient will end up spending a lot of money to buy the kits, to buy the levofloxacins and ciprofloxacins, to also buy the painkillers, and then again end up getting the injection for brucella, the 21-day injections, the streptomycins. How many of us, if we actually follow the Hippocratic Oath, the non-nutritionist who sat in a biochemistry class, understood the basics of biochemistry, will still go ahead and prescribe fruits as a healthy regimen to a diabetic patient? You read nutritional notes in the inpatient department, in the wards, and you start wondering if these people went into that class to just sit and get the pass, or did they go there to actually come out and change lives? So what are we doing? If we continue doing that, no medical practitioner will carry out, if we focus on the oath, no medical practitioner will carry out aimless abortions on innocent girls. None of the healthcare workers will go ahead and give out hormonal contraceptives to our women, knowing that they will add them weight, knowing that women are not in control of birth, but men are, knowing that these women will end up having migraines, hormonal imbalances, and all this depression, and still come back and add on another drug for the side effects of that drug. These are things that are happening. Some of your doctors even tell you that the body needs sugar because sugar is in the DNA. But ribose and glucose are not the same. But because we don't have the information, we cannot ask these questions. And that's why we exist as Health and Wellness Sport, to bring healthcare at your doorstep, so that if you consume healthcare, you can easily ask questions. You can easily read on your own. You can easily have a proper understanding of healthcare and question the same system. How is it possible that the syllabus books that were written in 1980s are the same syllabus books that are being used in 2023? They call it updated version or new edition. But the information in those syllabus are the same. How is it possible that we can pump a lot of money in diabetes research, in hypertension and cancer research? A lot of money, a lot of resources are pumped in, but the cases are still going up. But nobody's asking questions. How is it even making sense? So I want you to know, if you are a medical practitioner or a healthcare worker, health is a universal language, and health is a universal cause. And if at all you go ahead and become rogue, the punishment will come in handy. Look at most doctors. They are smokers, they are diabetic, they are hypertensive. So they have clinics, but they'll still buy same drugs and use them because they can afford it. How many doctors have sons and daughters who are actually depressed? And they end up spending a lot of money for the sake of healthcare in their children. This is the money that is being exploited or extracted from innocent public. It will always find an exit. How many of you doctors work in cities, exploit as much money as possible from people, become rich, but still buy unhealthy foods in town and cities and fetch it and head it and take it all the way to the villages to your parents? Feed them with unhealthy foods because you can afford it, and then once 6-7 years down the line, you're the same person who is taking these people for surgeries because you can afford it. So there's always an exit for this money. How many of you are actually treating parents who are suffering from chronic conditions, but you're writing the same prescriptions that you write for your patients? The problem is, we think if I cause harm to this patient, this will never find me. If I got his consent, of course. So if I cause harm, I'm safe. But you're not thinking the same thing you're doing here. If you close that window as a pharmacist or farm tech, you close that window to a patient, in your home county, your mother is going through the same things. There's somebody closing a window on her. But maybe you can afford healthcare and you can take your mother to a private institution because you have a healthy insurance. But how is it possible that you also have diabetes, you are a smoker, you drink alcohol, you're suffering from obesity and all these conditions, you have arthritis? How is it possible? Don't even connect that there's a channel of resources going out just the same way it is coming in a wrong way. So health is a universal language, and until medical practitioners honor the Hippocratic Oath, there is nothing that will change. Just the same way regulatory bodies do not honor their mandate to change lives of citizens, it's the same way doctors do not honor the mandate that has been prescribed in the Hippocratic Oath. So I want you to know this: health is a personal journey. Not even your spouse, not even your doctor, not even your hospital, not even your relative cares about your health. Health is a personal journey. Walk it alone. And if there's a medical practitioner who is going to watch this video, kindly go and read the Hippocratic Oath and stick to it. The moment healthcare became an industry, that's where we went wrong. The moment we started prioritizing profits over health and health became secondary to profits, that is a problem. If you are opening a clinic or a hospital with the intentions of changing lives of people, of health, and then profits come as a result of you solving a human problem, perfect. There are doctors who are doing that and there are doctors who are doing a good job. Thumbs up. The other rogue doctors, we will come slow and surely, and we will come through your clients, because those clients will ask you questions, and the more you become upset, the more they will challenge you even more. So it's time for you to step up. If you're opening a hospital or a chemist, open it with the intention of changing lives, of easing pain and suffering in the lives of God's people, and then profits will come. But if you're opening that business for the sake of the profits and health is secondary to your profits, this will come and haunt you one day. This is the Health and Wellness Spot, and this is Dr. Lewis.